Good afternoon, LEC community. Thank you so much for being with us for today's Ask an Educator. I am Susana Elizarradas, the Deputy Director of the Latinx Education Collaborative, where our mission is to increase Latino representation in K through 12 classrooms. It's been a little while since I have been on Ask an Educator, so you may have seen me struggling with the video there a little bit, but I am back for now and so excited to be with you and having an amazing conversation today with an educator from Maryland. I'm always so excited to connect with folks outside of Kansas City and outside of the Midwest. As you know, education is different in all parts of the country, and so hearing from different experiences, I'm really excited. So without further ado, I am introducing you all to Maria Peterson. Maria, how are you today?
I'm great. How are you? And how's everybody? Hopefully everybody had a great day.
Yes, I'm good. I'm good. Everyone feel free to, engage with us in the comments. Let us know how you're feeling, what you're thinking, as we have this conversation. So I guess to kick us off, Maria, tell us who you are. Tell us about yourself, who your people are, and a little bit of what you do.
So, oh my goodness, where do I begin? So I grew up in Puerto Rico and I was actually adopted. So my roots are Costa Rica, but my parents are from Cuba. I grew up in Puerto Rico. So I grew up in my house having the Cuban culture with the Puerto Rican flavor of, living the island. After college, I decided that I wanted to go out. I was like, I want to go out there. I want to stay in Puerto Rico. And I don't know why, but I ended up in Wisconsin.
Mm-hmm. Of all places, those are like two opposites.
I know. My friends were like, you really went away. I was like, I just wanted to get away. Like, I just wanted something different. And I ended up in Wisconsin. And from there, I ended up teaching here in Maryland. I moved to Maryland in 94. I was 22. I don't know anybody here. I didn't know anyone here. My then boyfriend, we had been dating since freshman year in college, also moved here. So at the end of the day, it was just the two of us in Maryland. We had never been here before. I started teaching for Montgomery County Public Schools. Montgomery County Public Schools, interesting enough, at that time had gone to recruit Hispanic teachers, and a team of people from central office and administrators went to Puerto Rico to recruit teachers. And that's how I ended up getting an open contract offer. So we're like, hey, let's come to Maryland. And why not? So I've been here since 1994. I love it. It's a great area to live in. And a little bit about my background. I studied elementary education. So I taught elementary school, 5th grade, for 11 years. But I was just teaching like math, science, social studies, nothing using my Spanish. And that's where from there, I kind of evolved to get certified to teach Spanish. So I took the praxis. I went to middle school teaching Spanish. And then from there, I went to high school to teach Spanish. Because, when you're in middle school, you only do Spanish 1 and 2, 1 and 2, 1 and 2. And I'm like, no. I'm a native speaker. Let's do something higher than 1 and 2. And there was a school that had an opening for AP Lit. And I'm like, hey, let's do it. I'm always up for a challenge. So I taught AP Lit, and as they say, the rest is history.
Nice. That's awesome. You were like past the teaching Vaso and Puerta. You were like, let's get into some narratives and some, yeah.
That's the thing. Being a native speaker, I'm like, wait, I speak Spanish and I'm not using this valuable resource, especially in this area. DC is so multicultural. There's so many representations from many countries in here, mainly El Salvador. But I was like, there's a need for Spanish teachers. Like, I need to use my Spanish. I got to go teach Spanish. I got to teach the language. I got to educate people about the language and, just be spread the great news of, take this language. It's a great class to take.
Yeah, I love that perspective because I know when we were kids, or at least me growing up here in Kansas City, it was like, if you get to put bilingual on your resume and it's going to like do a lot of things for you. And that's so true. There are so many of us who don't use its benefits, right? Like the advocacy work that our organization, our sister organization does, is something we're really proud of, is that a lot of us are able to provide those bilingual resources.
Exactly. Exactly. And that's a big push I always tell my students. I'm like, if there's 2 of you sitting in a waiting room for an interview. Trust me, the person who speaks more than one language will get the job, especially in this area where we live in the DC area. But yeah, you're correct. That's something I always remind my students. Like, trust me, it pays to know more than one language.
Yeah, and I also think about the times I was just at my son's hospital the other day, and there was a family struggling to communicate with the security guard, and they knew Spanish was their native language. So those moments too, right, where you can jump in and advocate and support because it's something you just have in your back pocket, right? Like it's not, you don't have to pay for it, you don't have, right? It's just right there, innate to you. So
yes.
something to be proud of. Before we continue our conversation, Delia is here to say hello. She says, "Hi, Maria," popping in to say hi. Hey, Delia. As Delia probably shared with you, we are in Evolucion season, which a lot of our community members know what that means. Basically, our annual conference is coming up next weekend. So things are a little crazy here, and we're all kind of, supporting each other in all the different roles. So the next question I want to ask you, of course, we're in the middle of Hispanic Heritage Month. I would love for you to share with us, what does Hispanic Heritage Month mean to you, and how do you celebrate in your school or classroom?
So I think it's a great opportunity to bring awareness to others about, we're not just a language, we're not just people from a country, but also, educate at a school, for example, students about, look, all the great things Hispanic people are doing. These are the latest things. We have an astronaut going to space, educators, at people advocating. So I think it's a great opportunity to introduce other groups to our culture. Every day we play music in our school. We do just yesterday we had in the courtyard at lunch, music playing. The other teacher also has kids that she brings food, and she has like a little picnic. Sometimes the kids, there's a lot of traffic in our school in terms of kids, coming in from Latin American countries and not knowing anyone. So those are perfect opportunities to connect them with kids from their home country. Like, oh, you're from the Dominican Republic. Hey, guess what? This student, you're new to our school, but hey, this girl right here in your class is also from the Dominican Republic. Because, when they come to class, they're quiet. But when we do activities like that, it brings awareness to who is, what kind of representation, and when we kicked off Hispanic Heritage Month, we had kids wearing proudly their soccer shirts from their teams, and some teachers had the like Bolivian flag, draped like a cape, proudly walking around the hallway. So it's definitely a time to celebrate. And even when we do international nights in our school, like there's a lot of pride. So that's something that I really love about our school, that, when it's Hispanic Heritage Month, like it is truly, celebrated and made a point to, hey, this is it, we're here. So,
Well, speaking of everyone, I have my very special Mexican soccer shirt on today. I didn't plan this. I didn't tell Maria to say that. I promise, but I did wear my Mexican. It is a point of pride, right? And it is a moment. Of course, you hear people say, well, we should celebrate all year long. And I agree with that. But it is kind of a moment for us to pause, especially in such a busy environment like schools, where the scope and sequence and the testing schedules and all of that sometimes takes precedence over culture and language and all of that. Getting this opportunity to kind of showcase culture is important.
Exactly. Yeah, we're always like you said, like, what's next? What's next? What's next? So definitely, I agree with you.
Yes. Well, you know what? I would love for you to speak a little bit to educators who don't identify as Latino or Hispanic. I don't think you need to be of a certain race or ethnicity to be able to celebrate other cultures. But if we had a teacher listening right now who's like, I don't really want to overstep, I don't know what the correct ways are to celebrate without being offensive, or whatever that little battle can sometimes be, what would you encourage teachers to do and to celebrate Hispanic Heritage Month?
I would say, we tell our kids, ask questions. Hey, tell me about your country, or tell me what's happening. I saw your country in the news. So the kids have like, oh my God, the teacher wants to know about my country, like this big pride, and the kids do want to share about their country. They want to, they want others to know. I always tell my students, think about, if you're in a different country and you hear somebody say, "Oh, where are you from?" "Oh, from Maryland." If we are on the other side of the world and we hear somebody saying they're from Maryland or they're from, the DC area, right away, like we're like, "Oh, you're from Maryland." Like the excitement's there because we can connect with that person from, who are from the same country we are. So the same way when you talk about, culture, yeah, you might not be from that country, but the fact that you're showing interest and the fact that you want to learn and be taught, I like to tell my students, like, tell me, teach me about it. Like Ethiopian New Year was just last week, and we have so many kids from Ethiopia in our school, in our community. And it was interesting because all I said to them the next day was like, "Oh, Happy New Year. How did it go?" And they were so like, "Oh, Miss Peterson, like, how did you know?" Like they were so happy that the fact that somebody acknowledged their culture, acknowledged their celebration and their calendar. The same thing goes with Latinos, Hispanics this month, and every day in the classroom. And then the other thing I was going to say is by you connecting with the students with those little things, it makes a difference in the classroom. They are showing, they can see you care. They see you're taking the time to learn about their culture and their celebrations. So they're going to be more willing to be more receptive, to listen, to pay attention in class, which, all that leads to better grades. So just those little things and showing interest and making, as always, making connections. As we know, we keep hearing that over and over again, but that's the key.
Yeah. Yeah, I think one of the words that came to mind when you were talking is affirmation, right? Like affirmation has those long lasting effects where it's like, okay, I do belong here. Hmm.
Exactly. It's not just, oh, it's just one more kid from some Hispanic country, probably Mexico, because everybody assumes it's like, no, 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 no. Tell me about your country, what country you're from. And like I said, and there's something happening in the news, we take the time to talk about it.
Yeah, 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 and not making assumptions, like you said, right? I had kids that I taught that were from Mexico that spoke more than one language, right? They spoke their indigenous language, Mestizo, and Spanish, right, and English. So also asking those questions, what language? Not assuming that just in Mexico we only speak Spanish. That just asking those questions, like you said, just asking, if you're willing to share, I'd love to learn more about you and your culture. It's kind of that simple question. So to jump back into you, and you talked a little bit about your journey from Puerto Rico to Wisconsin and Maryland, but I would like to hear something from your leadership story. So something about your upbringing, your journey as a student, anything that you feel is kind of relevant to credit where you are today.
Oh my goodness. Okay, so this can go this can go really far. So talking about language and talking about your roots and being Hispanic, I guess one huge thing that I did within the pandemic is something that I could probably share. And this is something not only as a person, as a teacher, and this is the perfect example how the importance of speaking more than one language and connecting with people from, for me, Hispanic, Spanish culture. But there was something during the pandemic, as you know, when vaccines became available, a group of teachers actually, and 1, 2, 3, 4 of us Hispanic teachers, we started helping the senior citizens because at that point, only people, I think it was 75 and up were eligible for vaccines. But the only way here in Maryland to get vaccinated was online. And we started helping the seniors. Hey, fill out this Google form. We created a Facebook group. We call ourselves the Vaccine Hunters, all of us 8 educators from the same school system, high school teachers. And we started to notice that the people that were reaching out to us were white, upper middle class, elderly seniors. But the clinics were being taken to the zip code areas that had the most Hispanic people. Those were the people that those zip codes were areas where the numbers for COVID were higher, because these are the people that work restaurants. These are the essential workers. These are the people that are out and about during the pandemic, but they were not the ones making it to those clinics, Hispanic 75 and up. It was people driving down from the DC area, Bethesda, Chevy Chase, which is the more affluent area. And then from there, again, as teachers, we were like, wait, where's the Hispanic elderly who live in this area? Where's the Latinos? We branched out. Then eventually, then we were trying to reach out to the older people, older Hispanic people, trying to help them. A lot of them just didn't know the language. They didn't know how to do it. But by us going to the clinics and going to those neighborhoods, we were able to get some people to come to the clinics. Eventually, vaccines were available to everybody, basically, the population.
Mhm.
And the Hispanics that we were helping sign up for appointments, when they were showing up to get vaccinated, they were being profiled. They were being told
Mhm.
things that were not true. They were told you need to bring your a valid passport, which is not true. Your paycheck has to have the logo of the company, which is not true. But because we had helped those people make the appointments, they had our phone number and they would call us and they're like, hey, I'm here at the grocery store. This is what they're telling me. So we were able to intervene and get them vaccinated. But if it wasn't for us advocating for them, these people would have not gotten vaccinated.
Mhm.
From there, we even have, we met with council members and we met with, all different government officials about how to bring vaccine clinics to the Hispanic population, because many of them, due to, just being scared, not knowing what's out there, if they're undocumented, they needed somebody, again, like you said earlier, somebody that they could trust, somebody that they could connect. And and not that we're health workers, we were teachers, but as teachers and Hispanic and Spanish speakers, they felt they could trust us, and many of them would come back to us, hey, can you vaccinate my uncle or my cousin?
Mhm.
We were vaccinating Hispanic people at the laundromat. We took the doctor of one of the clinics, and she went to Home Depot under a tree, and she vaccinated a lot of the day laborers,
Yeah.
again, because they just didn't know. And people would tell us, how is people not getting vaccinated? The information's out there. But it's like, no, you cannot reach the Latino population the same way you reach the general population, because they're not sitting at home looking at Facebook. They might be working 2, 3 jobs. They might not know the language. They might be scared of, I might being tracked. They might be, they just don't know, or they don't have the time in some of these clinics. It's like, no, these people don't get out of work maybe till 7, 8 o'clock. So you need, and slowly but surely, our voices were heard. We were able to expand. We were taking clinics to the Latino churches, because a lot of them, again, they trusted their pastor. If the pastor is telling them the vaccine is safe, then they were getting vaccinated. And from there, it was crazy, Susanna. Like, the amount of people that we were getting vaccinated, it just grew. And then eventually we were able, thank gosh, to we partner with Holy Cross Hospital, which is a very big hospital in the metro area. And we were taking vaccine clinics to churches, to barber shops, to laundromats. We would go to, like I said, Home Depot. We would go to the pupusa truck. We would go, one of the churches, we had a little carnival for one day, and then a payaso monchito, which is a popular, you know, clown character, came. The president of a local radio station in the DC area. Again, people connected with, oh, it's the blah 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 from the radio station, because they knew the guy went. They were like, oh, I'm only coming between 2 and 3 because that's when I want to get vaccinated, because that's when such and such from the radio station is going to be there. So it was interesting. And then by offering also things, educating them, offering them, have a free this, have a free that. So La Sirenita, which was a Mexican restaurant, we would go there, on Wednesdays. I'm telling you, like, we were like, where can we find these people? And then in this county, we were doing outreach going to the flea market, and it's talking to people. So,
Mhm.
and interesting enough, because of the work we did, we had some of our high school students tell us that, hey, because of what you did, because they would see us as their teacher and role model, they went into college to study something in the health.
Wow.
Like, they changed their major because they saw how hard it was, and to advocate, um, and just reach out. And just one more thing, the document that people fill out to get their appointments completed from the state of Maryland, it was totally, like, bad. Instead of saying, like, name and address on the line where people had to put in their name and address, when I was looking at the form in Spanish, it would say, instead of address to put your mailing address, it would say habla a.
Um,
The document was so, like, there were so many things that were so wrong, and we were the ones who uncovered that, because again, we were like, the state of Maryland is putting this out there for the population
wow.
to get vaccinated, but when you have a document, you have like, time is essential to find an appointment. You have the Hispanic people looking at that document. They're going to look at that document for 12 minutes and try to make sense of what it says, and I'm like, oh, there goes their appointment opportunity. And that actually made it all the way to the governor, Governor Hogan.
Wow.
So in a way, all these things that have happened, we were good, because as Latinos, we had a voice. The health department was understood that via WhatsApp. It's like,
Mhm.
people use WhatsApp. The Hispanic population uses WhatsApp. They had no idea, which is crazy to think. But so that was a big eye opener, and the kids were so proud to see us. We would have that voice to carry, and we felt we had a mission to educate and let people know, like, hey, have a voice, stand your ground. These are your rights. Don't be scared. So that was like our huge thing that we did during the pandemic, and we just finished it June 30th this year.
Mhm. I I need like processing time because how inspired I am right now. I have so many questions.
Oh, bring them on. We even met Dr. Fauci. We made over 50,000 appointments. We got
Oh my God, Maria.
They met us. They invited us to meet Dr. Fauci. It was so official, Susanna, because they were like, come to the metro station and there's gonna be a car that's gonna find you. So we park and a car pulls up and they're like, are you the vaccine hunters? And we're like, yeah, follow me. So we followed the car all the way to NIH, and then we're escorted to the lobby. And they're like, you wait here, he'll come down. And here comes Dr. Fauci with his little bodyguard, and he signed. Some of the ladies brought their some books to sign, and he took pictures, and he thanked us, especially for helping with the seniors who needed, the vaccines, because it was a time of chaos, and it was an honor for us to be in the middle of it, because yes, we're teachers, but we were also empowering. That's the thing. And like I tell my students, and I always say this: knowledge is power.
Mhm.
And some people didn't have the knowledge, so they felt powerless and not knowing, no, this is your right, or stand your ground. So we tried to talk to as many people as we could, um, but we're just trying to put some power in people and tell them, it's your right.
I have a lot to say and ask. At first, I want to elevate Dr. Clark. Hi, Dr. Clark is here with us today. He says, "What a brilliant, out of the box way of thinking." Can I just say, one, how inspired I am, but two, I remember when I was teaching, and I came to this realization that as a bilingual teacher, as a Latina teacher, as a teacher, you're such a resource hub for people.
Oh, yes.
Families come to you and say, hey, do you know a lawyer? Families will come to you and say, hey, I got this bill in the mail and it has red letters on it. I don't know what it means. So like, but this is next level, being responsive to what our families needed at the time. Why was it important? Because some people may see that and be like, well, they're teachers. Why do they care about medical or medicine? Can you tell me like
But
why was
those
it so
those
important?
are people. Those are the parents of my students. Those are my students. Those are the moms of the kids that live down the street. Like, that is our community.
Mm,
It's crazy because it's the 20904 zip code here in Maryland, in Silver Spring. That's one of the most needy. That was back then one of the most needy, communities. That's where I teach. I teach in the 20904, Silver Spring zip code. Like, I know that neighborhood. Like, when you teach in that community, the kids, the neighborhood, the streets, oh, that's where the kids go grocery shopping. That's where the mom, the kids catch the bus. Like, I might not live there in that area because I live 20 minutes away, but that's where my little kids, like, that's where they're my kids, that's where they live. And being bilingual, as you said earlier, and I tell that to my students, it's like, yeah, you speak English, you reach this group of people, but if you speak another language, now you reach now you can reach double the amount of people, and now you have double of the music set playlist, and now you have double the books you can read, and now you have double the movies you can watch. So everything doubles. When everything's double, it's like, unless it's dead, but everything that double, it's like, who doesn't want double of everything,
Yeah.
And it's what you were saying, it's crazy because so we were in the Washington Post, we were in Good Morning America, we were on CNN, but we also were on CNN Español. We also were in oh my gosh, Telemundo. We also were, so not only are we reaching the English speaking media, we're also reaching the Spanish speaking media. So again, that's a perfect example. And even now, I made really good friends with one of the ABC7 reporters. Even now, he'll text me and be like, "Hey, Maria, I'm looking for a parent who might be having whatever transportation issues or anything in the neighborhood or in the community that he's going to be covering in his 5 a.m. newscast." He, again, like you said, he knows that like we know people. And I'm like, hold on, I got you. Let me send a couple of emails. Let me reach out. And long and behold, every time he asks me for, hey, I'm looking for whatever, because that is an opportunity to have a voice. And that's an opportunity for a news report to get out there. And if I say, no, I don't know anybody, then that interview might not have the same, he'll still do it, but it might not have the same effect of, nope, here's one person. And when we had the issue of people being profiled, we actually found this lady, her name was Lucy Rodriguez. She was like, I will speak up. I will say my story, how my father was profiled, because I don't want anyone else to have to go through what I went through. And she was like, I want to be the voice to those who will not speak up and speak out to, their treatment. Because, as we were saying back then, how many people quietly left and went home and they were like, oh, well, I guess I'm not getting vaccinated, when they should have. So, empowering others was also very important to do.
I know you know this, but how revolutionary it is what you all did. And yet it's so, like Dr. Clark, like it's out of the box, but it's obvious also. Like, of course, building relationships and talking to parents and talking to family, right? I mean, I really am. Everyone who's ever watched an Educator interview with me, sometimes I get emotional because I do think about our parents, right? And my mom, and how it did sometimes just take that one person. It could be one person. And for some of us, some of that information is easily accessed, or some of the applications, you can read through them and fill them out. And whereas some families can't. And then on top of that, like you talked about, elevating the voices of people who may not be heard a lot of the time, or may not be listened to all of the time, right? You talked about Lucy, who said, I'll speak up, because there are folks who maybe can't, or they feel afraid to, right? Or they feel anxious to do so.
Yeah, she saw somebody leave, a Hispanic male, and she was like, I saw him leave, and I was like, she was like, that's not right. And she's correct. It wasn't right. We held a press conference and everything, and brought it up, like, this can't happen. We need to vaccinate everybody.
And think about the people. You said you got 50,000 folks vaccinated.
Our group,
from a group that started of 4 teachers.
8. There were 8.
8 teachers. I'm sorry. It started out with 8 teachers.
And then
Lucy, right? And the person at KSTV7, right? All these people who came around this issue that made it happen. Sorry, go ahead.
And no, we also, but then we became like an LLC, because we were working with hospitals and all that. We ended up hiring our high school students who were interested in working with us. And they were the ones who were putting out flyers, talking to people. We would, on Saturday mornings, take 500 flyers. Okay, guys, so tomorrow we have a clinic down the street. So the day before we would do this. Okay, guys, so today we're going to pass out flyers. We're going to talk to businesses. We're going to ask if we can put the flyer on the door. And it was really empowering for them. And they loved it. It wasn't like, oh, I'm putting a flyer on a car, or I'm putting a flyer on a window of a store. But the coming in and going and talking to the business owners, talking to their local community, that was huge. And these kids would give up their Saturday morning. They would be at 9 a.m. sitting at a church parking lot, helping us at vaccine clinics, passing out drinks or juices, or hey, did you give them a little vaccine, a kid? So that was another great thing. We had over 20 high school kids, boys, seniors, like some of these boys are like into their sport, or they would go to their games and then they would come over and help. So that was another great thing. We also got our high school students involved in the initiative, which was, another great thing we did.
That is amazing. That's amazing. I mean, I want everyone who is listening to this to just take note of like how much we tend to overcomplicate advocacy and outreach, and like you said, empowerment. You used the word empowerment earlier, where we say, okay, well, in order to access this, you have to fill out this form or talk to this person and call this number and all. But just being that you call me if you need help with this, right? And just do it, right? And I think about teacher recruitment, right? And you talked about districts that recruit from Spanish-speaking countries and all of that, right? Sometimes it just takes talking to that high school senior's family and saying, hey, this person wants to teach. We'll be here for them. Here are some scholarships they can take advantage of. Here is a campus job that they could be working while they're studying, right? Like just that
first step. That first step.
Yes. And sorry, go ahead. I'm just like fired up.
It's taking that first step, because there's a lot of people that sit around like, oh, we should do this, or yeah, we need to do that. We sat in a lot, and not to diss anyone, but we sat in a lot of, Zoom meetings with some officials, and it's like, oh, let's have a meeting about the meeting. Or we would sit at these meetings and I'm like, oh my God, these people are complicating things. Like, let's just, as teachers, we're like, what do you need done right now? Let's do it. And we do it. And that's exactly what happened. We created a group. We're like, you know what? How do we reach out people? Let's make a Facebook group and let's create a Google Docs. It's crazy when I tell you this, Susanna, that doctors were giving their patients our contact information to contact us to help them get appointments, because the doctors didn't even know how to help their patients. And we're like, okay, this is mind blowing. The fact that we have doctors sending their patients to us. We're just teachers. And keep in mind, Susanna, we were teaching virtually. So this was all done after hours. So we would teach virtually until 2:00 in the afternoon, take care of our kids, make dinner. Once 8:00 came around, we, all 8 of us from the comfort of our home, would go on our computers, because we knew CVS at around 9 p.m. That's when they would release appointments. So we had our Google sheet, because we had a Google form for people to fill out. So we had our spreadsheet with everybody's information. And then it was like, okay, 9:00, go. And we would sit on our computer till 1 a.m., like every night until 1 a.m, making appointments. Because it's not only, so we were making appointments on their behalf, because people were sending us their info, the seniors. This was the seniors. But then it's a matter of, hey, Mr. John, we just made you an appointment for tomorrow at the whatever place. So they would take whatever we would give them, they would take it. So it was a lot of work. Like every night we were up till like 1 a.m. on our computer making these appointments and teaching. And for me, it was crazy. I don't know how I did it, but I renewed my national boards as well.
Oh my God. Congratulations.
So I have no idea how I, virtual plus vaccine hunting plus my national boards, but I did all that year,
I mean, it's living proof of what teachers, like the passion that teachers have, how it comes out, right? Exactly. Like, yes, we teach. Yes, we follow the scope and sequence. Yes, we'll follow the testing schedule. But this is like a perfect example of, but we know this is what our families and kids need right now,
Exactly. And that's what, exactly. Mm-hmm. And I don't know, maybe something that teachers, when there's a will, there's a way, but teachers are very like, what do we do? Maybe because we work on such short, like we have no time to think about things like, oh, I'm going to make this worksheet. If I don't make it now, it's not going to be done. So we, go ahead and tackle it and do it. Maybe that's part of why teachers are so efficient, because to be honest, we're very efficient, because we know like we need to do it now because we don't know what's going to happen tomorrow. How, when you're in the classroom day by day, who would have thought this morning when I woke up, I would have this whatever meeting or this would happen.
Yeah.
We're just doers, and we'll just let's do it. And we had no no knowledge about any of this, but look what we did.
Yeah. I mean, and it frustrates me, honestly, on an advocacy standpoint for teachers, because the work that teachers do and the instinct that teachers have for efficiency and for being community driven, like literally listening to the community and then going and doing it, that should be so much more respected, right? And recognized. And so, I mean, Maria, I can't say enough to thank you for all of that work. I mean, that's serious. And like you said, like you had no idea. You're not a nurse, you're not a doctor, you're not an insurance provider, you're not
Nothing.
you don't, not a scientist, right? But you went in there and you and this group of teachers kind of just responded to what your kids needed. That's amazing.
Exactly. And our initial at the beginning was just to help the seniors 75 and up, because we knew a lot of the seniors don't have technology, don't know technology. You know, like you said, some of them, you know, like my dad lives in Puerto Rico. I wish somebody, you know, is also down there when the time came to help him, because he would have been one of those, you know, people would call us like, hey, I live out of state. Can you help, you know, make them an appointment? Because some of these people were not, you know, didn't have anybody in the area. But yeah, out of just trying to help seniors, look, we ended up, you know, uncovering, you know, the issues of the Latino community and helping the Latino community. So again, who would have thought it would have taken us there, but it did.
And you met, I mean, Dr. Fauci and the NIH, and like, oh my goodness. Well, speaking of your dad, I know Puerto Rico just had a hurricane. How is your family? Is everyone good?
So he's okay. He's 81 years old. He still lives in the same house where I grew up. So he has like a 4-bedroom, 2-car garage with a pool. You know, I'm like, Dad, you don't need that much house. But when things like this happen, it's kind of good that he's in a safe place. He lost power the day before the hurricane came, and then he has no power, a little bit of water now, but for a few days he had no power and, you know, no electricity and no water. But he seemed to find people to feed him. He's a widow. So he seemed to find people in the community. He's a deacon, so he has friends in the church. They take care of him. So he's okay. It's just, you know, just going through like another, here we go again. And just the island in general, there's so much need. There's so much poverty in some areas. And, you know, it's not that these people don't have insurance. They don't have a way, you know, they don't have a salary job. So it's going to be tough.
It's a very neglected part of our country, right? It's our territory of the United States, and it's very much neglected, unfortunately.
Exactly. It's getting gentrified, which is that's a whole other, you know.
I know.
Which Bad Bunny, you know,
know.
like him, he's making, you know, a point to bring that up, and the electric power grid and all that craziness that we've been living with forever.
People stop going to Puerto Rico to live if it's not under good intent. And the same is happening to Mexico. A lot of Americans have moved to Mexico City and gentrifying it and pushing out a lot of indigenous folks and people who, so yeah, like you said, that's a whole nother conversation.
Yeah, the tax breaks that the tax breaks are getting, and oh my God, it's infuriating, because, you know, I was there this summer, and just to see how things are changing, and it's like, this is not what it used to be when I grew up.
I know. Same. I'm from a small rancho in Mexico, and it's, you know, a lot of industrialization and all of that now because of the gentrification that's happening. Yes. Well, Maria, I'm really sad that we're nearing the end of our conversation, because I feel like I have a lot to learn from you. Thank you for what you do. My last question is, I think a good one, because you do a lot to support students and families in the community. What keeps you going? How are you? What lights your fire every day to do the work that you do?
You know what? I think, you know, you never know when you're, not to sound old, like sad at the end, but you never know when your last days are going to come. I feel like you need to live life to the fullest. Like my mom died at age 70 from cancer, lung cancer. She never smoked in her life, but there were so many things that she wanted to do that she didn't do. And, you know, I see some people like sitting around like, oh, I wish I could do this. I wish I could do that. I'm like, you know what? Do it. Like, do it. I wanted to buy a scooter, like a Vespa scooter. I've always wanted one. So during the pandemic, I'm like, you know what? I'm going to buy my scooter. A funny story is that, which I was telling you earlier today, during the pandemic, I started kayaking. I'm like, I'm gonna kayak. I'll never have a boat, but I'll have a kayak. And I bought a kayak, and some of my friends were seeing my social media posts, and they're like, "Oh, this looks so much fun." I'm like, "Join me." Kayak is not that expensive, and with COVID and all that, it was like the perfect social distance activity. I made it's all about Facebook. We make a little Facebook group, to share our pictures and share like a little chat, and they were like, "Oh, can I invite my friend?" I was like, "Yeah, invite your friend over." Inviting my friend over became like, I'm going to invite my friend, I'm going to invite my neighbor. We're starting to find us. We have, as of today, and May 30th was 2 years, yeah, from 2020. We have 1,100, and it's all women. So we call ourselves the Kayak Mamas. So if anybody's listening and wants to join, and it's all women. It's all women. And just to get out of the house, even if we're just taking our kayak and floating it in the middle of the lake and just hanging out and eating lunch and hanging out,
Yes.
we're not like, oh, we just did 20 miles on our kayak. No, it's like we're going kayaking and we're just gonna have fun and chat. And we have met so many people, nurses and people that from different organizations and other teachers. So I think for me, what keeps me going is just the waking up every morning and, hey, let's see what today has to offer. Let's see what adventure, and sometimes at the end of the night when the day's over, it's like, wow, who would have thought this morning when I woke up I would have, met this or met that. In the summer I work at a concert venue, so this summer I'm like enjoying concerts and met some artists. It's like, just do it, instead of waiting to do something like, like a paid job, who cares, just volunteer, and I've done everything from dressed as a mascot at the City Open to try out for the running presidents, like the Washington national baseball team has like their mascot. I have tried out. I knew I was gonna make it, but I could be like, check, I've done it. I'm very random. I'm so random. My friends will tell you that all the time. But
I
yeah,
love that.
again, you never know, how long you're gonna live, and
Mhm.
you want to have all these fun stories and memories, and you want also your children to see that, like, enjoy life. Don't sit there hoping and wishing. Go after it and get it. You can do it.
Mhm.
They
Mhm.
can do it. You can do it. That's the other thing I see.
Mhm. I love it. I mean, if you all need any help with knowing how to gather a group, with
Yes.
learning how to come up with a dope group name, so you have vaccine hunters and then kayak mamas, talk
Yes.
to Maria, because and if you ever need anybody to encourage you to just do it, talk to Maria.
I know. Just do it. Yeah. I know.
I love it. I love it. I'm so inspired. I'm so inspired. I with everything you've shared, and with the just do it. I am very much the person that's like, "Ugh, but I don't. I'm not good at that." And so you've
You have to.
inspired me.
You have to. I know.
I
You have
love it.
to do it.
I love it. Well, Maria, before we go, any final thoughts or final words for our community?
um Enjoy life, go out there, help people. We all, I feel we all have a mission in this world to you know become a better person and help others be better people, and just empower people. um we're teachers, but we also want to help others and teach them also how themselves to teach and help others, pass the torch.
Pass the torch. I
Yeah.
love it. I love that. Well, LEC community, I hope you enjoyed our interview today. Maria, feel free to stick around for a couple minutes afterwards and we'll kind of debrief. Everyone else, happy Thursday, and I hope you have a good weekend. Bye, everyone.
Bye.